in the spirit of keeping things different at this fantastic Energy Disruptors event, I rather wanted to have a dialogue. And I wanted to have that dialogue with a Canadian legend. And on behalf of all of us in this room here today, I wanted to impress upon him how much progress we have made on our path to achieving net zero emissions. Now, I can feel the connect with all of you. I feel like we are exactly on the same wavelength. So you guessed it absolutely right. Please welcome the one and only Bryan Adams. Bryan, thanks for coming today. Ashish, delighted to be here, even though in absentia. So Bryan, the clean energy industry has made tremendous progress over the last few years. Back in 2004, only $32 billion were invested in renewable energy. And like every other sector of the economy, we have had our challenges, particularly with the global financial crisis of 2008 and 9. However, we have not only survived, but thrived. In 2021, a record $366 billion of investment went into renewable energy. Moreover, while investments have gone up and down a little bit each year, we have managed as an industry to install an increasingly high amount of capacity on power systems around the world. In 2020, we installed a record 321 gigawatts of renewable power generation capacity around the world. And this has been made possible because of our relentless pursuit to keep costs down and reduce them. So back in 2010, it used to cost almost 5 times to build a solar project compared to what it costs to do so today. And the story gets even better, Bryan. We are not only installing more megawatts on the system, each megawatt that we install today is getting more efficient. So wind turbines used to only have a capacity utilization factor of around 20% in early 2000s. However, that number has increased to almost 40% today, and we expect to continue seeing a rise in those numbers. A result of all of that is the fact that less than 20% of all the electrons generated on the power systems around the world in 2005 were from renewable energy. However, that number has risen to close to 30% today. So we are making tremendous progress. I think our moment has truly arrived, Bryan. And reminds me one of your songs, Here I Am, This Is Me. There's nowhere else you would rather be, Bryan, right? Hang on, Ashish. Something's wrong up on cloud number 9. You say you have made tremendous progress, but actually emissions have only flatlined. They declined a little bit because of COVID in 2020, but emissions are up again. And you say you are trying to decarbonize the power system, but electricity is only a fifth of the energy consumed globally. And if you have to get anywhere close to net zero, you have to not only decarbonize power, you have to decarbonize shipping, aviation, cement, steel, every sector of the economy. So I don't think you guys are doing that well. Bryan, I apologize. Please forgive me. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing here. And I say this because I'm starting to see more challenges. A guy who is slightly more famous than you, has 175 times more followers than you on Twitter, recently said that the prices of certain critical materials that are needed for the energy transition are skyrocketing. And that is leading to a scenario where the prices of batteries, which are key ingredients to help us decarbonize the power system and also electrify the transport system, are rising. In fact, it may take us a couple of years for the prices of batteries to go back to the levels we used to see in the pandemic or before the pandemic. Another challenge I'm seeing, Brian, is the fact that climate change is forcing droughts in many parts of the world. From the west coast of the US to the east coast of China, and even in Scandinavia, hydropower generation, which was one of the initial poster childs of clean energy, is struggling. We also have this ongoing debate about finance, Brian. Some bankers tell us that sustainable finance is making tremendous progress. ESG is now being talked about in every corporation around the world. But there are people out there who are saying that progress is not enough. Banks and financial institutions are not doing enough to decarbonize their portfolios. I'm starting to feel a little bit demoralized here, Brian. Ashish, there's no use complaining when you got a job to do. Look for some more inspiration. I think I found something, Brian. Not only were renewable energy investments the highest last year, investments in electrified transport also reached an all-time record. And investments in newer sectors and technologies like hydrogen, carbon capture and storage, electrified heat, sustainable materials are increasing. So overall, we had a record $755 billion worth of investments last year in energy transition-friendly sectors and technologies. Moreover, early-stage financing is getting better for climate tech. On an average, $50 billion of investments are coming in from venture capital and private equity each year. But there is a problem here. While this $755 billion is a record, if we really need to get fully on the path to net zero, we have to invest, on an average, $1.7 to $2.7 trillion a year between now and 2025. Those numbers rise even more significantly as you move along. You have to end up spending at least $3.3 trillion, or maybe even as high as $5 trillion each single year. That's 5 to 7 times of what today's run rate looks like. This is not looking very good, Brian. It cuts like a knife, but this time doesn't feel so right. And I'm saying that because on one hand, we need to really scale up investments, but on the other hand, the cost of not doing anything is catastrophic. This picture was taken less than 5 years ago in a place which is less than 25 miles from where I live in Houston today. So I'm getting a bit disheartened here, Brian. Help us out here. Ashish, don't worry. I'll leave you with perhaps my most famous song, the one that had a record 16 consecutive weeks on the top of the charts in the UK. And you guessed it absolutely right. That song is, "Everything I do it for you." So everything all of you do in this room as energy disruptors, do it to accelerate the energy transition. Thanks for the fantastic advice, Brian. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause to the legendary Brian Adams.